Great. Thank you, Lucy. All right. Well, welcome everybody to our September Community Benefits Advisory Group meeting. We're so excited all of you could join us. Next slide, please. So we'll start with our housekeeping items here. So closed captions are available in English and Spanish. English closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow the link below in the slide to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser window. Next slide, please. So to access closed captions virtually, at the bottom middle of your screen, you should see a menu of options. If you can't see the menu, hover your mouse over the bottom middle of the screen. Click the square CC icon towards the right side of the menu to toggle captions on. Click the submenu arrow to access more settings, including language, font color, and font size. Next slide, please. All right. So we do have ASL interpretation in an effort to continue to center equity. There is an ASL interpreter in addition to closed captioning available. To make sure the interpreter is always visible, please right-click their video and select Spotlight Video. For those watching on YouTube, when we screen share, you'll be able to see the slideshow, closed captioning, and the ASL interpreter. You will still be able to hear different people speaking, but you may not see them. Next slide, please. So there will be an opportunity to provide brief public input later in the meeting today around 9:50 a.m. Please see www.interstatebridge.org/draft-SEIS for the ways to submit official public comment on the draft supplemental environmental impact statement. Verbal public comment for this meeting will be welcome in the Zoom webinar during the designated time, again around 9:50, with the option to turn on your camera. Please use the link located in the meeting description on the YouTube meeting page or on the IBR CBAG meeting webpage. Commenters will not be allowed to share their screens and will be removed from the room once the public comment period concludes. To comment by phone, dial 1-646-931-3860 or 408-638-0968. Enter the meeting ID 823-5803-3783, passcode, excuse me, 385815. Dial *9 to raise your hand. After you're invited to speak, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Next slide, please. And I will turn it over to Shannon to cover some of these in-person emergency procedures.
Thank you, Emily. So for folks in the IBR office, in case of emergency, we are located on the second floor of the building, and we are currently in conference room 25B at 500 Broadway Street. In the event of an emergency, immediately call 911 to ensure that help is on the way. If you are trained and it is necessary, provide CPR, AED assistance, excuse me, or first aid if needed. Equipment, including 2 first aid kits and AEDs, are available in the kitchen, which are right behind us here. There are 5 fire extinguishers located throughout the office, in the kitchens, at the copy room, near the lockers, in conference room 4, and close to the restroom by West Stairs A. For evacuation, please use the primary routes through West Stairs A and B or East Stairs. Stay calm and wait for emergency responders in a designated safe location. Familiarize yourself with these procedures and equipment locations to ensure safety. In event of an evacuation, after exiting the building through West Stairs A or B and East Stairs, please proceed to the designated gathering location, which is situated at the right corner of East South 5th Street and East 6th Street, directly in front of the Umpqua Bank. I'll hand that back to you, Emily, for our next section.
Thank you. And here on this slide is just an image of where that safe gathering place is, if folks want to take note of that. Next slide, please. All right, so we will start with our group agreements. So we want to make sure we put relationships first. We keep focus on our common goal. We notice power dynamics in the room as they arise. Create a space for multiple truths and norms. Be kind and brave. Practice examining racially biased systems and processes. This is a learning space for everyone. Look for opportunities to learn. Advisory group members will turn on cameras as you share this space together. Take care of your personal needs as they come up. So you can let Shannon know in person if you need to step away, or you can let me know virtually so that we don't call on you and in case you stepped away. Virtual participants can participate by taking written notes, using the raise hand and speak features for active engagement. We welcome diverse perspectives. It's okay to disagree. We ask those who generally tend to talk more and feel more comfortable in that way to move up your listening. And then folks who tend to kind of listen more and hang back, we invite you to move up your speaking so we can hear everybody's perspectives. And then finally, we want to assume and have good intentions. Next slide, please. All right, I will turn it over to Greg, Administrator Johnson, to do our welcome here.
Thank you, Emily. Welcome once again to the IBR office, and look to have a robust discussion. We're getting some good things done. We have presented the work that this group is doing in various locations to DOT leadership, to Federal Highway Administration. So we are the recognition of the need for a community benefits discussion is there, and so I encourage us to bring the enthusiasm and the ideas to the table. So I'll turn it to the good mayor.
Thank you, Greg. As was noted on our agreement by Shannon, we absolutely welcome you. Be kind, be brave, be calm. And there is warm, fresh pear cake with whipping cream. Welcome to this side of the river.
Millicent sitting in for Commissioner Maps.
Good morning, everyone. As Greg has mentioned, I'm sitting in for Commissioner Mingus Maps. I'm Millicent Williams. I'm the director of the Portland Bureau of Transportation. Pleased to be here and pleased that the IBR program has continued to engage Portlanders from across the spectrum in this project, and with sharing information about the progress that's being made. There is the sentiment that we're being brought along together versus it being separate. And so just excited about continuing in the conversation today and in the future and work. Thank you to the program and to this committee for holding the program to the needs and expectations that all of us have.
Great, thanks so much. And now we will move to our introductions of CBAG members. So we ask folks to introduce your name, your organizational affiliation, or your at-large status and your pronouns if you'd like. And then our check-in question is, what do you pack first when going on a trip? So I'll let folks percolate on that a bit. And Shannon, I'll turn it to you to get us started with folks in the room if we could pull down our slides here.
Thanks, Emily. Jeannie, why don't we start right over here?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard one. I would say now I have learned over the, few years, I pack my chargers first because I always forget them and it's horrible when I do. So that's my priority. Oh, and I'm supposed to introduce myself, sorry. Jane Haygood, she, her, chair of the Vancouver Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. Sorry about that, just jumped right into the question.
Hi, everybody. I'm Farley Winters. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an architect at LSW Architects in downtown Vancouver and also a resident of the Arnada neighborhood. And on a trip, my book, a good book, is the first thing I pack right now. I'm reading the Silo series. I'm on book 2. It's getting depressing, but I've been told to hang out for book 3. It's worth it. But yeah, good book.
Holly Williams, at-large community member, also an Arnada resident. She, her, and I usually pack walking shoes because my feet are getting older, so look at these things.
Good morning, my name is Siobhan McEwen. I'm the executive director of the Southwest Washington Equity Coalition, and I use they, them pronouns. The first thing I pack, I'm an avid music fan, so I bring my headphones with me, locally or anywhere on a trip.
Good morning, everyone. Aiden Brunauer, Assistant Director of Civil Rights and Equity for the IBR program. I use they, them, or he, them pronouns. And first thing I pack, very similar, a charger.
Oh, I have to.
Yeah.
I was prepared not to do that. Mills Williams, she, her pronouns, Director of the Portland Bureau of Transportation. And the first, this one's hard. Unlike you, I don't necessarily always pack comfortable shoes, but I do always focus on the shoes. And they're usually most inappropriate. Or whatever it is I'm doing, but they have to be at least 3.5, 4 inches high. Shoes.
Good morning. Once again, I'm Greg Johnson, IBR Program Administrator, he, him. And am I gonna be the only one who says underwear?
I mean, they're close seconds.
It only takes you one time.
That's right, that's right, that's true. That's right.
That becomes the priority.
And McInerney Ogle, Mayor for the City of Vancouver, she, her, and yes, I was reluctant, but now that she recognizes, because I count how many days.
That's right.
And it's always the underwear, the clothes, the shoes.
Lon Plucon, incoming city manager for the city of Vancouver, he, him pronouns. And as an aside, if anybody has a way to say that does not make me sound like a missile, I'm certainly open to other ways to do that introduction. Thing that I pack first that never actually comes unpacked is a second power block for my computer.
Shannon Singleton, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm the community benefits lead on the equity team at IBR. I am a carry-on only person, so I start with shoes because everything else I've got to fit around that.
I'm Vicky Nakashima, and I'm representing the Equity Advisory Committee. I use she, her pronouns. I pack my pillow first. I've done that since I was a kid, which means I own a lot of power chargers.
I'm Walter Valenta, Bridgeton resident, North Portland representative. I travel quite a bit, so I sort of now got a routine finally after many years, and then just sort of pack early, I would say, more than pack. So sort of have it sitting there ready to go, because all the times that you get somewhere and then you forgot one thing, or something that you need to do, particularly if it's like a business or something like that, thing you need to bring. And so now, finally, after all these years, I learned just start packing early and let it sit there, and then as you go through your day, you're going to remember that thing that before you didn't remember.
Carly Francis, she, her pronouns, Washington State Committee and Southwest Region Administrator, and underwear was my answer. And then I was also realizing when I'm going somewhere with my husband, there was one time where he's like, "Did you pack the toothbrushes?" And we'd gotten there and I packed my toothbrush, but our toothbrushes. So I realized that's my responsibility. Even if the toothbrush is done that morning, throw them both in, because we don't want to be buying rando toothbrushes.
Emily, we'll turn it over to you for our virtual introductions.
Great, thanks so much. And if I could get my CBAG members here virtually to raise your hands to make it a little easier to call on folks. And then while we're doing that, I'll get us kicked off. I'm Emily Thomas-Peralta. I use she, her, aya pronouns. I am also with the IBR Equity Team, Community Benefits Team. And it might sound strange, but hair ties are one that I've had to learn the hard way because I have really thick hair. And if I'm without a hair tie, that's just not going to go well. So that's the one that came to mind for me. And so let's go to Darcy and then Michael.
Good morning, everyone. Darcy Hoffman. I'm with Workforce Southwest Washington, representing the Columbia Willamette Workforce Collaborative. I use she, her pronouns. And Emily, hair tie is a good one. I had not thought of that, but that is like a security blanket for me. But my answer was honestly underwear, even before Greg said it. That's the first thing going in the suitcase. Come on.
Thanks, Darcy. Let's go to Michael and then Marcus.
Michael Strauss with Kimco Realty, the owner of the Jansen Beach Center, representing our property, our small and large businesses and businesses across Hayden Island, particularly retail. I always like to start with the treats. Maybe it's just having a new puppy at home, but we always pack treats. So I like to make sure that I have snacks for me, my wife, and whomever, because somebody gets a little grumpy when we're hungry.
Thanks, Michael. Let's go to Marcus and then Peter.
Thanks, Emily. I'm Marcus Mundy. I work at the Coalition of Communities of Color. I use he, him pronouns. And yeah, I was going to default to underwear. That is first, but it's certainly not hair ties. But you know, the second thing I pack is always a big pile of papers because I'm so disorganized. I think when I'm traveling, there'll be some quiet time and I can work through the papers. And basically, I've taken papers across continents, you know, just back and forth.
Thank you. Let's go to Peter and then Scott.
Good morning, Peter Fells. I use he, him pronouns. I represent Alliance for Community Engagement, which is a coalition of environmental groups and individuals. I live in Vancouver. I have to say underwear came to mind first, but there's a method to that, which is that it helps me count the days that I'm going to be gone. And then based on the number of days, I go underwear and then socks and then shirts. Kind of goes from there. So that's what I do.
Thanks so much. Let's go to Scott and then Serena.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott McCollum, superintendent at the Washington State School for the Blind. I use he, him pronouns. Like Marcus, the hair ties is not something that comes to mind for me either. Underwear, socks, and I'm kind of like Peter. It kind of flows like that, but I also always have to have my contacts in there. So underwear, socks, and contacts would be my list.
Thank you. Let's go to Serena and then we'll end with Ray.
I'm Serena Stoudemire Wesley, Assistant Director, ODOT for Equity and Civil Rights. And my shoes for me, I got to make sure I have the right shoes.
Yes. And Ray, we'll invite you to introduce yourself.
Waiting for my screen to come on. There we go. Hi, good morning, everybody. Ray Mabey, System Administrator for IVR. He, him pronouns. All good answers so far. I guess one thing for me might be, that I haven't heard, but maybe comfort is just earbuds or something for travel. Being able to kind of sink into a book or music whenever we're traveling.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. If we could get our slide deck pulled back up. Great. So we'll go through the agenda. We've done our kind of call to order, our introductions, do our overview here. We'll go into public comment next. We'll provide a program update. And then we're going to go into the bulk of our meeting, which will be to roll up our sleeves on reviewing and refining potential benefits that are in the avoid further harm category. And then we'll close out with some next steps. Next slide, please. All right. So we'll move into public comment. Next slide, please. So to make a verbal comment, to make a live comment via phone, dial 1-646-931-3860 or 1-408-638-0968. Meeting ID is 823-5803-3783. Passcode is 385815. Dial *9 to raise your hand. I will call on participants to provide comment. Dial *6 to unmute yourself. Please provide your name and affiliation if you have any. And then there will be a 10-minute time frame that will be divided amongst the number of requested speakers. If we run out of time and you have not had a chance to speak, you can still provide comments after the meeting. Next slide, please. So please see www.interstatebridge.org/draft-SEIS for the ways that you can submit an official public comment on the draft supplemental environmental impact statement. But for our public comments related to this advisory group, if you would like to submit a comment after the meeting, you can fill out the comment form on the program website or email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with CBAG Public Comment in the subject line. Call 360-859-0494 for Washington, 503-897-9218 for Oregon, or 888-503-6735 for a toll-free option, and state CBAG public comment in your message. Written comments need to explicitly say CBAG public comment in the subject line or in the body of the message for them to be identified and distributed to CBAG members. All written comments must be received prior to 48 hours in advance of each upcoming meeting in order to be distributed to advisory group members. Comments received after that point will be distributed to members in advance of their meeting. We would like to note that we did receive a written public comment submitted before the meeting, and that was included in the meeting materials that were sent out to members. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you please go back? So do we have any public commenters that are waiting?
That would hurt in person.
Yes, we have 2 people waiting.
Okay, great. If we could have our first public commenter, and Shannon, I will ask you to please help with facilitating this piece.
Sounds good. I believe Michael was first. Amanda, if you could let Michael in. Hey, Michael, did you have public comment today? Michael Campbell?
Hello, yes.
Did you have public comment this morning?
No, I found you on the Zoom meeting, so I decided to join on, I found it on YouTube, so I decided to join to see what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, let's go ahead and bring in Bob. Hi, Bob. Do you have public comment this morning?
I do.
All right, if we can get the timer up. Thank you, Amanda. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, very good. I'm Bob Wardblad, a Washington resident and 40 years a civil engineer. The IBR has committed 2 sins, a sin of omission and a sin of lying. The IBR has omitted in its draft EIS realistic graphics of massive bridge approaches planned for Hayden Island and downtown Vancouver. Both Antwerp, Belgium, and Vancouver, Canada proposed bridges with massive approaches. Seeing graphics of these approaches, citizens objected. These bridges were canceled, and both cities are now building immersed tunnels. Vancouver is replacing a 75-year-old 4-lane tunnel with a new 8-lane tunnel. The IBR is also lying about an immersed tunnel alternative. The IBR's tunnel evaluation was proven fraudulent, and IBR's recent videos of 10 reasons a tunnel won't work has been debunked. To meet a 178-foot clearance, the U.S. Coast Guard directed the IBR to evaluate a lift bridge and a tunnel alternative. The IBR's draft EIS ignores Coast Guard's directive and is evaluating only an unpopular, expensive lift bridge alternative. This is a ploy to sell IBR's lower 116-foot clearance bridge designs. The IBR is beyond redemption. An honest and independent immersed tunnel evaluation is needed. An immersed tunnel will provide riverfront parks, more earthquake resilience, can be built faster and at less cost. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. And we have public comment in person?
Yes.
Is there a chair over here? You can come on up. You're welcome to stay where you're at.
I'm driving.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Karen Gibson and I live in the Arnada neighborhood as well. And I am up close and personal to I-5. The proposed sound wall, yay, for our neighborhood is about 70 feet from my front door. So when we talk about harm reduction, I just wanted to be here and be a face for somebody who really needs you guys to all look at harm reduction because we live very close to this freeway. And we are gonna be dealing with a lot of construction. Even just building the sound wall alone will be a lot of construction right on top of where we live. So I'm just here to encourage you and be a face for somebody who really needs a lot of harm reduction processes in this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And anyone else pop up online, Amanda?
Nope, not at the moment.
All right, thank you. I'll hand it back over to you, Emily.
Thanks so much. We could get our slides back up. Thank you, Lucy. All right, and I will turn it over to Administrator Johnson to give our program update. If we could go to the next slide for him.
Well, we have been, we've been busy over the last number of weeks. And that culminated in last Friday, we released our draft supplemental environmental impact statement publicly. So that is the beginning of a 60-day public comment period that we anticipate having thousands of comments coming to us. So we are ready and prepared. We're going to continue to do outreach into the community and make presentations. So if anyone knows a group that hasn't heard from us and needs to hear from us, please let us know. We will make that happen. So we also had the Federal Transit Administrator come to town. Federal Transit Administration Administrator, Veronica Vanterpool. And she was here in town actually for the opening of the Better Red, but she took some time to come up to the bridge, to take a tour, to walk on the bridge, to see exactly what we are trying to get done here. She was very impressed with the work that has been done thus far. Her staff has been tremendously critical in getting our document published. So we had an excellent time thanking each other for hard work that our staffs have done. So we also just recently had an equity roundtable where we discussed how to interact with this draft supplemental document. And so that was a very good conversation. Once again, if you know some folks who need to have this primer before we have the public sessions, the public hearings, please let us know and we will get a team over to have that conversation. So we had a, God, my eyes are getting bad. We had a virtual public briefing back in August, once again, where we talked about what this document is, what it contains, and to make sure that folks understand how they can interact with us. We're taking comments by email, by written mail, leaving a note on our website. Coming to the public hearings and commenting, we'll have court reporters that will record verbatim what is said. So those are going to be the key ways that folks can interact and make their voice heard on this. We continue to do presentations, and I can't see that small writing and I don't have the slide in front of me, but just as late as yesterday, we were in front of the TriMet Board of Governors to present to them where we are at with the release of the draft document. So we continue to be tabling and doing events out in the community. So we will try and find ways to where we can be at those spaces that folks need us. So if you know that there's an event coming up in the community that you don't think we're aware of, please let us know. One of the groups that I heard yesterday that we need to touch base with is the Ministerial Alliance that is in the region. So we're gonna reach out to that group and make sure we're talking to them. And so Upcoming, we have the Joint Transportation Subcommittee, the group that's looking at polling for the region. That's coming up next week. I think that's next Tuesday.
I think it's actually, and this one is actually a joint, it's a comprehensive joint meeting with the Transportation Commission, so this is the first time that they've met. It's the entire commission, so the subcommittee is a meeting, so this is sort of an opportunity for them to look at the recommendations for moving into the level 3 traffic and revenue analysis, which basically has a set of toll toll scenarios basically to look at, so ranges of toll rates and also the revenues they might provide, and so they're gonna sort of endorse that activity.
Are they meeting, or is this all on Zoom?
But I think they're in person, I think they're in person here.
Oh.
In Vancouver.
In this building.
Oh, you're in.
I hear you. I mean, I'm not gonna be there, but I think we
Get the Huckleberry School.
Yeah.
We can find out more information so that by then we can announce that.
So one of the last things I want to make this group aware of is October 15th is our first public hearing combined with the open house and informational open house around the supplemental environmental impact statement. So that's going to be at Clark College, and there's more information on our website, but it's from 5:30 to 7:30 at Clark College. On the 17th of October, we'll have our second public hearing open house. That will be at the Portland Expo Center. So you're welcome. Please come. Please make your voice heard and encourage anyone in your organizations to come and let us hear from. So, and here, like I said, can't see that slide. Should have brought my glasses. So.
This is the largest that we can.
Comments provided.
Somebody can read that.
Comments provide feedback that helps the program refine design options, update technical analysis, and inform the final SEIS. They should be specific to the information that's learned or read within the draft SEIS. So these are guidelines for folks to try to help them provide effective comments to the program. When sharing an opinion on design options or the analysis, provide information from the analysis that helped form that opinion. For a comment to be included, it must be submitted in one of the official ways. Comments submitted through social media and informal conversation are not formal comments. To ensure the administrative record accurately and completely reflects the documentation received during the public comment period, written comments should not include any hyperlinks to outside materials or information. Any materials or information you wish to have considered should be included within the submitted comment. Attachments to emails must be specifically referenced in the comment text, including specific citations to page number and passage from the attachments. The point of that is that attaching a document does not provide the interpretation that folks are trying to share and the things that they are expecting the project to take away from it. So it's necessary for folks to provide that information so the project can actually understand it as opposed to, read it and assume something inaccurate. All audio, video attachments must be transcribed or submitted via the draft SEIS voicemail line.
Thank you. All right, so the document is available. We have a physical copy here in this office, and we have some spread out throughout the community to make sure folks want to come in and physically look at this. We also have iPads in this office where folks can come and look at the thank you so much. So we've made it, these documents adhere to American with Disability Act standards, so folks can come in here and access the document no matter what ability you have. So also we have an online search function where if you don't want to go through all of these pages, you want to just look up certain aspects of the document, you can punch in that search function and get specific information. We have an executive summary that has been interpreted, I think, into 8 different languages. So if English is not your primary language, you will have abilities to read the summary in your native language. You can view the draft supplemental document on our website at interstatebridge.org, draft SEIS. The hard copies, one is here, one is at Vancouver City Hall. Thank you, Madam Mayor. One is at the Vancouver Community Library. And in Portland, we have it at the Charles Jordan Community Center and the Portland Building. Thank you, Millicent. So we have 2 virtual meetings that will also happen. These are public briefings, not public hearings. So these virtual briefings will happen October 1st and October 9th for folks who want to get oriented to the document and know how to submit comments. But we have the 2 public, so November 18th is a closing date for comments. You can submit a web-based form, you can email, you can send a comment through regular mail to our office. You can also call our office and we will have your comment transcribed verbatim and entered into the public record. And you can comment at the virtual as well as in-person public hearings. So comments can be in your native language and we will get those translated. So once again, the upcoming public hearings at Geyser Hall, at Clark College on the 15th at 5:30 to 8:30. The Portland Expo Center, the 17th from 5:30 to 8:30. And then we will have virtual public hearings. If you can't make either one of those, we'll have virtual public hearings, one on October 26th from noon to 3, and one on October 30th from 6 p.m. to 9, I believe. I believe these are 3-hour blocks of time as well. So if you want to visit our calendar at our website, you can go there and it has all of this information. Hi.
So you're gonna get thousands and thousands of comments. Is the comment that comes from, say, a neighborhood group going to carry more weight than one that comes from an individual? Or is this just sort of gonna be tabulated, you know?
It'll be tabulated as one.
Okay.
So if you have a group of folks and they want to make a similar comment, I would break it into that group and have them individually submit.
Good to know. Thank you.
Good, I don't know, Greg or Carly, if you can answer this. So let's say that your comment is some text and a graphic. Would you want that put together as just a 1-page PDF or something like that and submitted? Or what would be the right way to submit text that had an illustrated graphic with maybe an arrow pointing to the area or something like that?
It's a great question. I am not the NEPA expert, but we will get someone, Walter, to contact you and let you know what the right answer is. I could give you an answer,
okay,
but it may not be the right one.
And then sort of to follow on with what Holly said. So in other words, you would rather have 20 identical comments from a neighborhood association than one comment with 20 signatures?
If you want the impact of having 20 voices rather than one, I would have them submit it.
Thank you, that's good to know.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, go ahead, Shawana.
Just in that regard, thinking about communities that don't typically engage in public comment. And I know that there's a lot of work that's being done in terms of outreach, but I'm curious about how you'll be trying to balance the fact that some communities definitely participate more in public commentary and other communities do not, even though they may be even more adversely impacted.
We recognize that phenomenon and we have been targeting getting out into those hard to reach communities. We created micro grants to where we brought community-based organizations to reach into those hard to get in those communities that generally don't participate in programs like this to try and reach into those communities and say, please participate. You cannot drag people to comment. We can encourage them. We can go and make presentations. But in the end, individuals have to make a choice if they want their voice to be heard. So, and we're trying to make it as easy, as convenient as possible for that to happen. And once again, if we need to go places, if we have to do it in onesies and twosies, we'll do it in onesies and twosies. So.
Sean, do you have some suggestions on how to do that?
Well, I guess just after hearing that, my first thought is, you know, where can I find a list of the Clark County-based, the Vancouver-based orgs that got the microgrid, so I can call and say, hey, what are we doing and how can we support you? You know, that's all.
Yeah, and I think there's been 2 rounds of mini grants over time, so we can look at pulling all the CBO partners. So not to share.
Great, thanks.
And it looks like we've got a question here virtually from Scott.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. Quick question, Greg. You mentioned that there were hard copies of these reports available in certain locations. I saw that on the slide. Is there a Braille copy of that same report, or a copy in Braille, I should say?
That is a great question. Let me check with our team and see how we have made that accommodation. I know we have some electronics that can read the document for folks who are vision impaired. So let me double check, and Scott, we will get back to you on a more complete answer to that.
Thank you.
Holly, you had a question, comment.
So that I've seen to date, sort of most of the getting the word out about the draft SEIS has been through sort of virtual sources. Sometimes, I'm particularly thinking about the neighborhoods that are adjacent to the freeway on both sides of the river. Just having like flyers attached to phone poles is a good way for people to just know that, hey, this is up, folks. The decisions are going to be made about this new bridge. I don't know if that's out there.
We have done flyers, so
Okay.
I will talk to our communications team about if it's feasible to do
Do I talk to Brian?
mailers.
Because I would mind
You've
putting
already
some
done mailers because I'm right next to it and all of us got.
We might have gotten a mailer, yeah.
I think I got mine
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Or 2 days ago.
Okay, it might have come, I don't know, you know. So is that going out to like Rose Village and all the like Meadow Homes and all out that area as well?
Our list is extensive
Okay.
for our mailers,
Okay,
so.
yes.
And in Spanish.
Yeah, actually, part of it was.
Okay.
And the community engagement team does a lot, most of their engagement is in person, so when they're out at events, they're out at neighborhood associations, so they're doing a lot of that work too. So it's not just mail, but I think the flyer is a good thing that we can follow up on.
So I say this to say, I've been associated with a lot of large projects, and this effort is unprecedented. When we talk to our partners at Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Authority, and tell them things that we're doing, the number of touches that we have in this community over the last 4.5 years, they are thoroughly impressed. But thoroughly impressed may not carry the mail. We need, if there are things that we're missing, we need groups like this. We made the same appeal to our community advisory group and our equity advisory group. Tell us. We made the same appeal to our executive steering group, which are the CEOs of the project, the board of directors, if you will. That same thing. If there are things that you see where we are missing, we have gaps, let us know. Our team is ready to go out and do what it takes to maximize comment. And I will make a editorial comment because, you know, social media is such a negative space, but it's like a car wrench. You gotta go in and look at it every now and then just to see what's being said. So the Coin TV and K2, they posted things, and so folks are posting on those websites. And luckily, somebody did say, hey, you can post all you want to on here. This don't matter. You gotta go and officially make your comments heard. But folks are repeating this bad information that's out there. And we tried our best to publicly knock down some of these issues about light rail, about the number of lanes, about all of this. But we're willing to once again go hard at it if that misinformation is still out there. But we have tried numerous ways to tell folks that a tunnel isn't feasible. Folks don't believe it. So that is, if you read social media, you would think that we were the dumbest folks around. But dumb folks don't get $5.7 billion to move a project forward. So I tell folks, keep that in mind. So that's my editorial.
Thank you, Greg. And I think the other piece is that we didn't talk about is advertising in culturally specific media as well. So newspapers, websites, they're also really being reached out to. So we'll gather that info for everyone and send it as part of our follow-up. All right, Emily, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
All right, thanks so much. Next slide, please. Okay, so if we could pull down the slides. So I'm going to give a little bit of framing here before we dive in, but we're really excited to be at this phase now. We walked through our brainstorm sessions with all of you through the different categories, and now we're getting to the part where we're getting to roll up our sleeves and really dig into these recommendations and to refine them further, get into more detail. So just a reminder of kind of the process that we've been going through with your recommendations after you've put them on the table. What we've been doing is taking these potential recommendations, taking them before our internal, what we call technical teams, but they are representatives from procurement, finance, design, transit, all the key areas of this project, and getting their input, their questions, their analysis on what all of you have put forward. And then that's really informing what we're bringing back to you today so that we can dig into this a little bit more and get it to a place where we would all like it to be. And so I will pull up our chart here in just a moment. We sent out a copy of the chart. I know it's going to be it might be a bit tough to see virtually. We'll do our best to zoom in for folks, but I just want to note that we sent out a version of it to members. So those in person, I believe you have a hard copy. Folks virtually, you have a PDF copy so that we can really dig into this chart together. And like I said, roll up our sleeves. And so I will, Shannon and Greg, I'll invite you if you have any pieces that you'd like to share before we dig into our review find session.
Thanks, Emily. I think just so folks are aware as well, there have been a request for things like what are potential funding sources. So you see some additional columns than you saw during your brainstorm session. And this is because you all really wanted to make sure that we were attending to cost and ability to fund any potential benefits. So Emily, as we walk through, we'll kind of share what all those columns are. And as she said, you may notice the list is smaller, even just for this category, because as we walk through this, we'll share with you where we combined things. We didn't take anything away. It will be here, but we'll tell you where it was shifted to. And if there's something that is just not feasible, we will share why that wasn't feasible and from our conversations with the technical experts. Yeah, Holly.
So am I to understand we're not allowed to add anything to this at this point?
We're not looking to add new potential benefits, but we do want to refine these further.
Well, new areas or concerns about avoiding further harm?
I think it might depend on what that is. Because it might already be somewhere, so.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Emily.
I was on mute, of course. Just a quick check here. If folks can see the chart generally okay. I've tried to zoom in enough to where we can still see the columns, but if folks would like me to zoom in further, I'm happy to do that. And also Shannon, if you could help me and folks virtually, I may not see your hands because I'm screen sharing here on my laptop. So just wanted to mention that. So what we're going to do here is we plan to take you through one by one, and we have some notes here that we'll talk through. Another exciting piece is that now that the draft SEIS is out, we can talk about some of the pieces that may already be included in that as part of potential mitigations. So we will kick off here with number 13. Folks had put forward to coordinate with local landowners on maintenance of access to the river for Native communities throughout construction. We have noted that potential funding sources would be the IBR program. And as this is typically standard of what DOTs normally do, that's some of the feedback we've gotten. And that this also could potentially be part of construction costs in terms of any requirements that may be put on contractors as part of contract specifications and ensuring some of that access for folks. Another kind of note for context here before I open it up for discussion is that our tech team noted, you know, there may be a need for some consideration of safety depending on, you know, where construction is happening at the time. For example, if access would be under the bridge and there's construction going on, there would just need to be some considerations for that. But yeah, I will open this up to discussion if folks have any thoughts or feedback on this.
You have one in the room, Marla, go ahead.
Yeah, I think just grammatically, maintenance of access to me is a little bit confusing. I was like, wait, we're providing maintenance? What? And I think just maintaining access might be clear grammatically. I don't know if other people thought that, but.
Great. And just a quick note, so I'm not going to make live edits just to like make it easier here, but Shannon is taking in-depth copious notes and we will update them based on the notes. So just wanted to note that as we kind of refine language here.
Thanks, Emily. I have Shavana and then Holly.
I'm assuming this is already noted somewhere in the plan, but just ensuring that we're not just coordinating with the local landowners on what is available, but also coordinating and communicating with tribal representatives on what they need. So it's not a one-sided relationship. Here's what's available. More of what, you know, what do you need? How do we try and make that available?
This is more of a process question that this particular item just sort of brought to mind. So I'm assuming as we're building the new bridge, that sort of waterfront way, if you will, so that there's going to be a period of time where it will be closed, that there will maybe not be access, say from Terminal 1 over to the east side. And you know, that's a very popular walking area, cycling area. You know, for a lot of people who can't afford to go to a gym, it's their gym. And so I just, you know, in the interest of avoiding further harm, you know, it would just be good to know. I think that's one of the things that people struggle with in providing cogent feedback to the draft FDIS is just really understanding what is the sort of the process.
So some of those are going to be construction details with the contractor.
Right.
For instance, when we are removing the existing bridge, that's probably the time when that portion will be closed. We will have signed detours to get walkers, bikers, rollers around that area. But yeah, there's going to be times when we will not be able to maintain that access.
Okay.
Access rather.
Gotcha.
But it's we will have to have a contractor on board and understand what his schedule and what his game plan is for that removal.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one thing that, well, I think we all understand there's just gonna be multiple impacts in that way. I think the concern is if they go on for years.
That's good.
You know?
And at this point, we can't say what that would look like. but we can incentivize or disincentivize that type of closure.
Shannon, I don't know about the south side of the river, but on the north side of the river, there are only 2 landlords that allow any access to the river from their land now. So is that what we're talking about, that those 2 property owners would continue to allow access to the river?
I think that's a question for you all, because this is from your brainstorm, so if that's how it makes sense for the.
Because the National Park Service in the city of Vancouver are the only ones that allow access to the river.
I was very curious on this one about like, what is the existing access that you're trying to make sure is still there? Which I think is kind of limited, so as long as somebody knows that, that's great, but it felt a little bit unclear about what.
Right, because no other local landowners allow access to the river. So I don't know about the south side of the river though.
Well, there is no public access on the south side. That's why some of the community benefits that we want to have get facilitated through the IBR and the levy raising is finally some place that you can get down there and actually touch the water. So there is one city park that won't be really affected by the construction on Hayden Island that only you can get to the water from. And other than that, there's zero public area in the area. And I didn't know, I read that, are they talking about just walking down the pathway, like Discovery Trail? Is that what they mean by access from the water, or are they actually talking about getting their toe in the water?
Well, access to the river.
Right, is that I mean, some people would think walking through Grant Pier area is access to the river. You know, like what is that? What does that mean?
If you could flip the questions to be what you all want it to say, because this comes from this group. And so when you say they, that's you all.
Well, yeah, I think in that case, going back to what I had said about, there needs to be real specific intention in coordinating with the indigenous communities. If one of those current access points is gonna be unavailable, then there needs to be some sort of plan to mitigate that so that folks can have access. And that can be enforced.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, both of the properties that have access to the river now are far enough away from the bridge construction that I don't see the impact. But we can certainly leave it in knowing that right now there is no access to the river in the bridge construction area.
So I wanna go
On the north side of the river.
take a breath for a second and just ask folks, let me call on you. Please say your name for folks online. I wanna have Greg go, and then we'll see if there's anyone virtually who's trying to jump in this conversation.
So this might be a good opportunity to do some resource mapping, to find those areas that do currently have access in our program area and identify those. And if we are impacting, we'll create a plan of how we deal with, who we talk to, who we contact, and how we sign for that lack of access.
Thank you. Millicent, I'll come right back to you. Just wanna check in. Emily, anyone online trying to get in here?
Not that I can see, but I think I just would love to really quickly before we go to you, Millicent, to just add a little bit of context. I was in the small group that where this one was brought up, and it definitely was what one of you all spoke to right before, where it was really making sure that we're working with, in our Native communities, Indigenous groups, to ensure that access, is maintained if it is impacted, because there may be cultural events or ceremonies or any pieces like that are significant. And that's where, the spirit behind this one was really to ensure that access is not impacted for that cultural piece there. And I also want to note quickly, we do have other benefits that speak to creating the river access points that as another member just raised. So I just want to note that is included in some other benefits here. This one is pretty specific to this cultural piece.
Thank you, Emily.
I just wanted to recommend that in addition to identifying the places, you define access. To the earlier point, is it a toe in the water?
Is it, you know, vote? Is it, what is happening? So. I
So
think
let's
that-
spend time there with this group. What does access mean to the CBAG? Because again, this isn't a they, this came from this group. Shivana.
Well, I'll just say, I don't know that I don't think that that's something that we can define. I think that's important for the Chinook and the Cowlitz folks to be able to have, a definition provided for what they mean. And I think it's imperative to get that from them. And then I mentioned this at the last meeting that I was at, you know, ensuring that, as we're constructing our sentences, that we're doing it in a way that really indicates explicitly, in active voice, that this would be a collaborative effort. That it's not the IBR saying, we will do this and that's good enough, but it's saying collectively. And I think that's the whole point of a community benefits is to be able to say collectively, we've come to this recommendation, and to be able to really express it, even though that's, even though equity is such an inherent part, I know that for the IBR program, it's so important. But being able to put it explicitly in the documentation, I think is really also very important, so that we're not left to just trust that the program runs the way it's supposed to.
Yep.
So in terms of defining, I don't think we
Got that.
can do that.
Yeah. And if there's particular language changes that help there, that's exactly what this session's for, because these will all come back to you all before you do decision making. We're not gonna do both in one session. So that you can see the edits that we make based on the discussion today. I'm gonna go to Vicky, then Carly, then Greg.
Vicky Nakashima, I wonder about treaty rights that might drive access, or, you know, in terms of negotiation with sovereign nations. Whether that's something, or litigation that may not specifically relate, but it could come in the future. Go ahead, Carly.
Carly Francis, so the focus here is throughout construction, the focus is on existing properties that provide access, so I'm hoping that next time this comes back, that sort of survey of properties is present, so that we can, like, cause there is this other thing about create possible waterfront access as an aspirational like item somewhere else in this list, so just to flag that. And maybe Greg will speak to the kind of extensive coordination we have with tribes generally, which I don't know that you were here yet to hear that sort of discussion. And maybe it's useful to sort of bring some of that forward elsewhere, just so you guys, which is, there's a lot of that. So I think there's an interesting space where this group is going to sort of identify aspirational goals for Native communities, but also the dialogue is specifically sort of program and government to government consultation process with tribes. So some of that you won't see here at this table, but it's happening in those other venues.
Greg?
So I was gonna make mention of that. We meet with Cowlitz and the Grand Ron as the two primary consulting tribes, but we consult with the 10 federally recognized tribes in both states. And we will make sure that this question is asked. At one point, did we have someone from the tribe
Yes.
on our committee?
Steve is on the committee. I could keep getting kicked out, so I'm not sure if he's online today. But I don't think he was in the morning or in the introduction section.
So we'll make sure this gets taken back to our monthly meeting for a conversation.
Absolutely, and I can bring this to Cassie as well, absolutely.
So, and this will be the last thing I say on it. So again, so the Shivana McEwen, I am not questioning the relationships or the engagement. What I'm saying we need to address is the actual language that's in front of us needs to be very clear about it being a mutually constructed or collaborative conversation around what the language here that I'm looking at needs to say that. Because people who don't understand that you're already engaging with tribal representation and tribal I understand those are conversations with tribal government is a private matter. I get that. It needs to be clear to the public, hey, we have done our due diligence. It's very important to us that we've worked with First Nations and they've had clear input on this. Because otherwise, I read it, but people will read it and will say, well, what are you doing? And then we get a long conversation, well, we're doing that, great. Make the language very clearly state that you're engaged in that process.
Yeah.
That's all.
Mayor Ann?
Shannon, I think we can remove the word local. It's just landowners wherever they are.
Emily, anything online? Are we ready to move into the next one?
I'm not seeing any hands, so I think we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so number 14 here, I want to note that this one, we did make some adjustments and reframing to it based on some feedback we got from our technical teams. So originally it talked about providing a list of those who could perform inspections, but based on the feedback that we got from our technical teams that this is actually a standard practice of what, is required with contractors. So I'll go ahead and read our language here, which is to require contractors to perform foundation inspections or videos on specific properties prior to construction to establish baseline conditions for determining whether any subsequent impacts are caused by IBR construction. And so we have noted here that that would be part of construction costs through contract specifications. And from what we understand, this is a standard practice, a standard requirement of contractors. It typically, it covers those properties that are in the program area. And that this is part of the requirements to establish or conduct a pre-construction condition survey. And so I will open this up for discussion, and Greg or any others, if there's anything you'd like to note here before we have members open up.
Well, just that whenever there's pile driving activities, vibratory piling or densifying soils or asphalt pavements, that is when these type of complaints generally will. And it is a standard practice of every deal to proactively talk to property owners. Some property owners will not let us into their places to video, get that. But we always seek to make it available to property owners.
Thank you. I have Holly, then Mayor Ann in the room.
So, I think this concern is coming from what feels like actually a little bit higher level concern, and that is there effort in the sense of avoiding further harm? And I'm just going to use this as an example. So is there effort to sort of plan that we know we're going to have these harms, so let's do something early on? The case in point being, I think when you remove the sound wall, we're going to have to take down a lot of trees. And which is sort of, that's just kind of how things are gonna have to roll. So how does the public get a consideration in place to actually take care of those things earlier so that those trees can be growing? Do you see what I'm saying? It's sort of like planning ahead for those harms that are gonna happen. I'm sorry, but that's what people are concerned about, that's the harm, and it's kind of, the harms are kind of down where the rubber hits the road, right?
But we don't have a contract at this point. Now,
Okay.
if we are taking property from someone and not a total take, but a partial take, then that can be a part of the negotiation. We want X number of trees on our remainder of property. Those type of things happen during our right-of-way discussions and negotiations. But if it's a property that's not being impacted by right-of-way, and we are taking trees that are on DOT property, the DOTs will come back and plant trees in multiples of the trees that were taken.
Is part of your question about whether or not that tree planting can happen earlier than the take of them? Which is an interesting question of like, I mean, if we know they're gonna go, whether or not there's a way to just get them in the ground so they have more grow time over time, which is an interesting, I think it's probably something we can consider. The issue is whether or not you have land to plant them and that won't be disturbed later. And so I think
Oh,
that's.
fair enough.
Yeah.
It's just sort of, are we asking the questions and, you know, and in the interest of, again, avoiding further harm.
I think it's a question that can be asked, is flexibility on the part of DOTs and contractors to get it done. We won't have a contractor on board to do that for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, the other issue is just like, we'll be fitting within the right of way we have, and so that idea of remnant right of way that's available for durational planting, right? Like what's actually gonna be left over, it's gonna be hard, and it may be hard to find those places, but certainly something.
And I think again, because this group does recommendations, that can be turned into a due diligence on this question that you're asking. That can show up as a potential benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important to acknowledge the things that are going away and that are, we know are valuable. This is part of the city's, you know, plan, you know, the trees. I mean, this is a metric that is kept track of. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Marianne?
I think this is half of what we actually wanted for the 40+ properties. Yes, the contractor will be way down here. This is selection of your contractor. This is a list of contractors that the property owner can select from. Said, I want this one to come and evaluate my house and do all of this inspection.
That is, you start getting into liability issues. If this is not going through the contractor, then you get into a world of he said, she said.
Well, you can provide the list of contractors that you approve. Or the contractor can give a list of the approved, but I don't know that person. But I have a choice. Give me 3, give me 2 to pick from. But I don't know that when you determine the list of approved contractors can do that, and you go through the approval process or whatever. But for a property owner to say, oh, this is the one that will do the inspection, and go, can you give me a second one that I can collect from, so I can select from?
I think part of the challenge is the same kind of integrity you are seeking between property owner and inspector is the thing that the contractor will want out of the inspector too. And so there's this issue, I think this is the rub here, that the contractor, if they don't have a relationship with the inspector, that is also a critical factor, which I think is the issue here, is that you're seeking to create integrity between property owner and that entity. And for actually, you know, getting the rubber to hit the road to pay for foundation damage or other things, the contractor will want that integrity with
Absolutely.
that entity.
And that contractor or IBR can say, these are the approved inspectors for you to select from. If you want this done, select from this approved list.
I think that I hear what you're saying, and I know that that's something we're resolved here, and we can definitely talk with procurement team and understand what opportunities exist there. And when we come back to this category, we can share with you what we learned from that and talking with our technical experts who work with contractors all the time.
Okay. Because as we look at we have a group of inspectors at the city that go out and inspect electrical, for example. Surely you have individuals that know what they're doing and they're inspecting for just exactly this. They are approved through your process, but you give the owner a choice. This is not giving the owner a choice. This is saying you will allow this person in your house or nothing.
Melissa? Understanding the concern that you're citing there. Doing that flies in the face of procurement rules. Typically, if there is a list, you go through the list and it's A gets it today, B gets it tomorrow, C gets it the next day, and you go back to the top of the list. You can't cherry pick based on the quality that you think a person has, or you can't exclude based on the quality that you think a person doesn't.
Okay.
And so that could get really, really sticky for everybody involved, the property owner as well as then contractors who would be called in. Because if neighborhood A, all of them decide to pick this one contractor, why? Why did you pick that one? And then they get all of the benefit.
Okay.
So that's the challenge that we have with balancing the way that procurement engagement contractual process works. If in fact there is a finding about an inspector or better that comes up, we can then say, yeah, we can't use this person. And the program would need to exclude them from the choice. But that should be happening through the investigation that's happening as the contract is set up.
Do we have to wait for this contractor to be selected before the evaluation? We've identified the properties now.
If I'm a
in the
contractor,
SIS.
I'm a contractor and you have hired someone else to go do this work. And then there's damage, or there is, someone states there's damage, and I had no part in verifying that ain't fine. The one who is gonna be on the hook for paying, they're gonna have to have verifiable, I saw this is part of my project records, that we did this on this date, here's the video. Like, yeah, to decouple that, you start getting into some liability issues that will not.
I think the other question is whether or not there's a way to, so what you're probably gonna react to is this, that sounds like the fox guarding the hen house.
Yeah.
Right, and so then is there a way to, so I guess the question, that open question is there a way to build integrity and trust in that process?
Yes.
And are there ideas for that? And so then maybe that's an open question to the team.
That's a good way to, thank you, Carmen.
So we, in my past, in my history, we've had DOT personnel walk with the contractor. And the videos get shared between the contractor and the DOT. And the property owner has a right to see exactly what has been videotaped. So there is a mechanism to make sure that this thing doesn't go sideways.
Well, not just outside, but inside and down in the
Yes.
basement, okay, because as we look at this, the impacts. So prior to any construction. These inspections, these videos will happen. And not just outside with trees and sound walls and this and that, but the property owner will be encouraged to bring them down into the house for the inspection inside.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Uh,
Sorry, one more.
Go ahead, Farley.
Yeah, Farley Winters. I guess I just wanted to clarify the specific properties I was seeing in the draft supplemental impact. The SEIS, so it's a lot of, it's a big acronym. The program areas defined in some of the graphics for that. Are these specific properties ones that are only directly adjacent to that or within that program area? Or are they ones that are outside of that and that will be determined later on based off of the drilling, the construction activities that need to occur?
Depending on the work activity, that will determine what that,
The scope is.
yeah.
Yeah,
It,
okay.
if you're driving piles, which is very disruptive, vibratory causing, there are standards for how far, given the type of soils, how far you could expect vibrations to travel.
Yeah.
And have impact.
Okay, great.
Contractors will also use vibration monitors for the same type of thing to determine, okay, how far are we causing the ground to move?
That clarifies.
Emily, I'll look to you.
All right, well, I will move us to our next one, which is number 15. It says to develop a communication plan for before and during construction to keep the public informed of potential impacts such as noise, route closures, or other mobility impacts. So we have a note here that this is, again, this is standard practice. This is included in the draft SEIS as a potential mitigation to develop a plan for this. So we have identified then that the funding source would be IBR program and that the different agencies would be the responsible parties for this. And so I will open it up if in case folks have any thoughts here.
So one thing that the program is giving great consideration to is creating community. We talked about navigators, ambassadors. I like advocates because it gives it a little more action to where there will be a person that is specifically in the community every day, giving updates, answering questions, knocking on doors saying, this is gonna be happening this week, and letting people know what's going on. So we've used that type of thing before. We're gonna need it on steroids here because we're gonna have a lot of activities in a lot of different places. And the potential for a blocked driveway, potential for some pile driving to be happening during an off hour. Folks need to know and understand that. And so having these community navigators, ambassadors, advocates will be something that we are looking closely into to see how we could move that forward. Generally, you would put it on the construction inspector for the DOTs, but this is gonna be such a big job. We think that this might be just a full-time person or persons doing this.
Thank you, Greg, and noted, we change it to advocates.
And-
Yeah, Shavonna McEwen, I would just, again, in an effort to have our language be explicit, I would just add language on this document to say something about ensuring language access is a priority consideration, or ensuring that cultural awareness is a priority consideration. Just trying to be clear with the language that we're using on this document.
Thank you. And does it work for you if sorry, Emily, I was just wanna make sure I capture this, ensuring language access and culturally responsive. Better. Go ahead, Emily.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that we have another benefit here, number 17, that is somewhat similar, but it's speaking to what Greg was talking about really having this kind of this piece where community members can voice concerns, can get some of that help, can get resolution. And so just want to note that that we do have that separated out as a different benefit. This one on 15 is on its own because that's part of the the typical mitigation plans. And so I just wanted to note that if folks have thoughts related to that community piece and that liaison or navigator piece, that I think 17 would be the great one for us to dig into that.
Actually, I think 15 and 17 may be able to be combined.
There's a bit of it that seems like it's proactive communication and then also the responsive. Yep. Okay. Vaughn?
That was actually the distinction that I was gonna make, Shannon, was that this doesn't call out to me that it's gonna be positive outreach or proactive communications. There's a big difference between having somebody going down and proactively knocking on doors versus sitting by the phone, waiting for the calls or the contacts to come in. And if that's our intent, then we should feature that language in here somewhere, just so people have a clear understanding of what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Anything online, Emily?
Not that I'm seeing.
All right.
Okay, well then we can move to number 16. So this is to increase public transport services and explore alternative routes to mitigate transportation impacts during construction, including the implementation of shuttle buses and additional routes. And so we wanted to note that we have heard from our technical teams that this is normal mitigation. This is in scope for our transit agencies, and this is also included as a potential mitigation in the draft SCIS. And so with that, I will open it up for folks to share any comments or thoughts they have.
Should that read public transit as opposed to public transport?
Shavana?
I think just knowing that massive amounts of folks who are utilizing the bridge every day don't necessarily live within the immediate area, geographic area of concern being impacted. I think just also adding a note that would be widespread communication also beyond that geographic area. And again, thinking about the cultural considerations. Increasing public transportation services throughout both the city of Vancouver and Portland.
Any other thoughts that folks have or questions on this particular one?
This one has some concerns for me. We know that at some point during this project, we are going to disrupt walkers and rollers and bikers. And we talked about a bus bridge to get people, but how do you get folks hauling a big sack of bottles? How do you get them to say, get on this bus and we'll take you to somewhere? It concerns me. So ideas around that, if folks have some ideas, not necessarily just for the bottle carriers, but how do we make sure that folks know that this is gonna be something that is gonna be impactful, and getting to that community that walks across the bridge or bikes across the bridge every day is gonna be tricky.
You've got a hand here online, Shannon. Marcus, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if I understood what Greg said, I think part of what he was saying was, how are we going to communicate these things? And that's on this one, that's the thing that sticks out to me. People have their routines, they know their schedules. So you would know when the building schedules are and when the disruptions are going to take place. So how could we plan well in advance before the bus routes change and the interim things are in place? I'm just thinking about the communication piece. So maybe something explicit in here about timing of communication or necessity of communication. That's all. But I'm sure that was embedded in there, but I just think being explicit about that so the community will know, oh, we will have signs or we will have updates, or we can join a list and know that these changes are going to happen within this 2-week period, something like that.
Thank you. We'll come into the room. I had Shavana, then Millicent, then Holly.
Shavana McEwen, I'll say, I think that's a wonderful opportunity to partner with the City of Vancouver's homeless outreach team, opportunity to partner with SHARE Council for the Homeless, Columbia River Mental Health. I do know in some rural communities in Oregon, have heard OPB have an article about this a number of months ago. There is a bus that picks folks up with their cans and bottles and takes them right to the drop spot and then takes them back. Y'all know about that also. But I think that's a great opportunity and yeah, to do something like that and I do know that this legislative session there, just as a FYI, there will be some bottle bills introduced to try and support better recycling here in Washington State. So that will set everything up. Yeah.
Millicent? Melissa Williams, just kind of follow on what Joanna just said, and to comment on what you said, Greg. People currently get on buses with bags and cans.
Not on C-Train.
Okay.
Oh, they aren't?
On TriMet, they do.
Yep.
The issue will be for those who are walkers or biking across, the cost, if in fact they are to get on a bus. So that's where the potential engagement of that shuttle service would be helpful, because the reason they're walking or biking is because that is free. So I think we just have to, as we're thinking about how to service the whole community, be really thoughtful about, to the extent that we're cutting off something that for folks for years has been a free opportunity. Balancing that. And I don't have.
It may be cheaper for the contractor to say.
Here, let me buy your cans.
Let me buy your cans.
There may be a bottle collection on either side or something like that. That could be an option. Super fun. Well, for somebody else.
2 points. Two
Yeah.
points. One, I wouldn't hesitate to go old school in communications. Basically, have a poster right there at the path that you get the access point. I mean, it's only 1 point. It's easy. And it just says, here's what's gonna happen. Here are your options. Here's how to access them. You know, I think sometimes we hesitate to do sometimes the simplest stuff. And then secondly, you know, there's also the folks who are going over on pretty large mobility scooters. You know, that's their main point of transportation. I think we really need to remember that those people are increasing as those devices become cheaper and need to design accordingly.
And I know it's come up a couple of times, because I agree, I think, Shivana, we have to work with street outreach teams and actually get communication to our homeless service providers, so people know ahead of time. All right. Emily, I will hand it back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Shannon. Okay, so we will go to number 17. It's the one we started talking about a bit before. So we have to establish a process for community members to voice concerns and report negative impacts, potentially including an online platform and or hotline where community members can report issues and receive timely responses, ensuring a commitment to responsiveness and resolution. And we pulled this last piece from one of the other benefits, but it was to consider exploring the use of AI in this effort as well. So I just want to point back to what Administrator Johnson talked a bit about, and that the program's exploring some of these community liaison navigator roles for this kind of reactive or assisting the community through any efforts that come up. And so I will open this up to see if there are any additional thoughts here before we move to the next.
Millicent, then Vicky.
Millicent Williams, I am not trying to absolve the program from responsibility of being responsive and solving problems, but I think we will need to make sure that we're intentional and thoughtful about the responsiveness and the resolution, because they may be complaining about something that, from the bridge's perspective, the program's perspective, is not a problem, they just don't like it. Yeah, we all deal with this all day, every day.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes the answer is no.
sometimes the answer is no, and that's a sufficient answer. And I mean, I'm not saying, again, don't work to solve the problems that we have, but we could bury ourselves in trying to be responsive and solve and offer that resolution that satisfies the request. And it may never be, I mean, I think we all know there are stakeholders for all of our work, that it's never enough, it's never the right thing, it's never, so again, not trying to say don't do as much as we can, but I want to make sure that we're protecting the process and the teams that will be working to solve issues, sometimes it's okay to say, yes, I hear you, and this is in fact what we're doing, and the problem that you identified, while it may be a concern.
Maybe we put, because ensuring a commitment to responsiveness feels like one thing, and due diligence to reach resolution.
I think there needs to be a qualification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I can, Shannon, if it's okay, if I can just uplift that, that's exactly the vision kind of behind this approach, is that it's not necessarily that the program would be committing to solve every issue, but it would be helping to triage or to connect folks with the appropriate resource that may or may not live within the DOTs or the partner agencies. And so that would be part of this, is helping to connect folks with that appropriate party.
Thank you, Emily. Vicki.
Vicky Nakashima, I've heard a couple times, I think Lon said something about, we really need to anticipate what some of those questions will involve. And I think Greg, mentioned that if the contract isn't awarded, we can jump in and provide a service. But how do we put on a parking lot or some piece of paper, some possible solutions or issues that may keep us from tripping over that later when it's too late? And I think when Millicent was talking about responding to Greg about the contracts, I know there are little ideas, like the city of Portland has added a person of color with expertise in particular areas where a contract review is happening. So they have, I don't know if it's still in place, but a city's policy that they don't award any contracts without a person representing the equity from outside of the city to sit on a review panel, which may not solve the problem, but it certainly helps people feel like there's some input in the process, especially when contracts, whether it's a police contract or a construction contract. So I think some of the problems we've gotten into with Portland, with what happened in Portland with the major public projects, has been because we said, oh, we can't do that now. But it's too late once it gets to be an issue, and lots of people are impacted. So I don't know how to do that or where it would fit, but I think we always need to think about it in terms of anticipating.
So if I could jump in, one of the things that will be a continuing feature of IBR is the community advisory group. Everything else will probably collapse into the community advisory group, and it will get repurposed, restructured. But some of those proactive type things that you're talking about and putting solutions forward in a proactive way may fall, and overseeing the community benefits that this group agrees to may eventually fall under the umbrella of a revised community advisory group. Because we think we're going to carry one advisory group forward instead of that will have the umbrella responsibilities for community benefits, equity, and that proactive outreach into the community.
And I think I did capture, there's something about that we can bring back again about how we sit our review bodies, right? If there's an RFP, who's reviewing the RFPs, and is equity, priority communities, a part of that panel is part of what I was hearing you say too.
And we need to be very careful. I'm looking at Carly. The DOTs have procurement rules around how they select and who sits on these panels, so. We can make requests, we can ask for flexibility, but in the end, that contract is between one of 4 entities. Either the 2 DOTs, TriMet, C-Tran, and that contractor. And trying to change their procurement rules may be tricky.
I'm gonna go Shavana, Millicent. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. I'm gonna go Juan, Shavana, Millicent.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer a comment, taking advantage of this parking lot. One of the pieces I'm concerned about this is as part of that process and as we design the mechanics of it going forward, what's the piece where, or how do we take what we're hearing too? Because not everybody's gonna go to the IBR website. They're gonna come to our neighborhood meetings, they're gonna send emails to city council members, they're gonna come to our community forums. What's gonna be the process for how we get those communications and everything back to the
So
IBR?
what I'm hoping that these community navigators, advocates, whatever they are, these are folks who will be attending those neighborhood meetings in conjunction with each city to hear directly from the communities. And we know that's not the only part of business that will be talked about, but if there are concerns about the construction, hopefully these community advocates will be able to be at those meetings, hear directly the complaints or even the praise that's coming, so.
Well, just for perspective, we've got 71 neighborhoods, so I know when you put that in the hopper with Portland, you're probably talking a team of people.
Yeah, we're talking about Z's and.
Yeah. I was gonna say the community engagement team has really good relationships with the neighborhood associations in the area and even go a little bit stretch from the program area. And so I think it's manageable, but yeah, it'll be, I know Greg has said 1 or more, but I think he's emphasizing the or more. Shavana.
Yeah, just kind of overall comment about all of these that ties in with what both Vicky and Lon said. And actually what Director Johnson said too, you know, yes, there are bodies that are awarding contracts and in contract negotiations that we don't have access to advising. That's always the case. And how does the IBR utilize its positionality and its role to make those recommendations to other entities and other partners? One of the things that I'm sure everybody knows is that the city right now is undergoing their process for their comprehensive plan for the next 20 years for development. It's so important when we think about and also understanding, you know, those communities that are geographically close to the bridge are getting the most outreach and engagement, but everybody in the community is impacted by the bridge. And the comprehensive plan is going to be impacted by the bridge, and the comprehensive plan is going to impact the bridge. And so how just a request and a consideration to always be considering how can the IBR continue to work really strategically with ODOT, WashDOT, the city of Vancouver in supporting and advocating and issuing anti-displacement policies in documents and in plans that are beyond the scope of the IBR. So how do you take your positionality of the bridge is going to impact everybody in the community? How do we work with others in the community who are planning for growth in a way that says we really strongly suggest through what we've learned in this process that you think about the impacts that fall beyond this immediate geographic area or this immediate 10-year, 15-year project. That's what bureaucracy is, right? Is everything is siloed and there's this plan and this plan, and we're not thinking about how are they intersecting, but it really is important when you think about, when you look at the 2020 census data and this part of town being an equity impact area and at risk and susceptible for displacement, I'm very curious what 2030 is gonna say. It's gonna say there was displacement, it happened. So how do we continue as we're building this bridge? It's gonna, how do you use that to say, look, we get it. We don't have impact on the comprehensive plan, but we want to make some suggestions because we've done a massive community benefits process. We want to make some suggestions for how you can incorporate anti-displacement all along the community.
And there's definitely that in some other sections, so I wanna totally appreciate that, and that particular call out is in the community benefits that we'll talk about more around anti-displacement work and anti-gentrification work. I do wanna just name that we've got 10 minutes left. We have about 4 more that we'd like to get through today, so if we can keep comments but not vital, or if it's concise as we can be.
I'll try to be concise and make it as important. The comments around contracting and contract equity and selection of vendors to do the work or contractors to do the work. I think what's important, and it's a two-parter, is that we first really be honest with ourselves about what's available in terms of the landscape of contractors to do this work. We are not doing ourselves any favors by, and I'm not saying don't have goals and not just aspirations, but goals, by saying you have to have X percentage in this category when there are none of this category in the minority contracting community, or we don't know about it. So I know that there were Meet the Prime opportunities, some other things. Now is the time, it's past the time actually, but now is the time for us to really be engaging with however we can get folks to get their certifications in, so that you can be a part of the solution when it comes time for selections to be made for the contract and the contract teams. But you know, for those of us who are working on delivering projects every day, we're having a goal that we must reach. We work really hard to do that. And we're getting dinged for not being able to meet a goal when there's no pavers of color, period. How am I getting penalized for that? You know, that's a hard thing to even say, but that's a reality that we have to face. And I know that our intentions are pure and good, but that's something that we have to, and so we know that today. How do we recruit?
Yeah.
How do we get a business ready?
And that's exactly what our DBE outreach is doing, and I think we'll continue to do, and have not only events, but also the one-on-one support them through certification processes and all of that
And
sort of.
this is how you win.
Yeah.
Because that's the other piece of it.
Yep.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I'll be very quick. Shannon, not to put you on the spot, but when can we bring back to this group these advocate positions that we developed as well as the resource center? Because I feel like there's been a lot of questions around that.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it, I just couldn't remember the date.
Yeah, no, I think we, after we have, I think we're gonna talk about it, not this Thursday, but next today is Thursday, so next Thursday. And then we should be able to bring it back, hopefully in, their October meeting.
Okay.
Yes. Great. Emily, don't feel like you have to push through. We might only get 1 or 2 more done. So if there's particular ones you know we need some feedback on, please go ahead and focus on those. Otherwise, we'll just keep going in order.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I would like us to focus on number 20 here. So the language here was to develop comprehensive strategies and funding options with the program and other partners that can be implemented to address the relocation and housing needs of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness affected by the program. And so this is one that, you know, we would love some input on some potential opportunities for partnership, collaboration here, as we would look to all of you for that. So Peter, I see your hand here.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to bring up something I've mentioned before, which is that I think this is an opportunity to build some additional housing with some land that might end up being surplus or excess. But we need to try to not have housing next to the freeway because it's very unhealthy. So if we can, the DOTs can figure out a way to do some land swaps, maybe with some people that have commercially zoned land or planning commercial or industrial elsewhere, and put the housing where those other places would be, and put the commercial stuff near the freeway. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Peter. And I just want to add, I definitely see the relation with this one we've got here on the table, and just want to note that we do have pieces speaking to that in particular in our community benefits category that we'll be sure to bring back with this group. So thanks so much, Peter. Any other thoughts here on this before we wrap into our closing slide?
Yeah, I have a strong thought on this. You do not want DOTs doing housing. We do not do it. It's not in our skill set. We will work with others if there's excess property. We're more than willing to bring that to the table. We're working with FDA to get some more flexibility in what can be done with property remnants. But you do not, I mean, guarantee you do not want DOTs in housing.
And we definitely will talk more about it in the community benefits category, because I think it's also an opportunity for the program to share some of what our partners with Metro and TriMet do around transit-oriented development as well. So we'll talk more about housing. But I think I do want to capture if anyone has any particular feedback for this benefit as it's listed in the avoid further harm category. We do want to capture some feedback there so we can start grinding on getting some of those partnerships together. Marian.
Real quick, WashDOT has been a partner. As I look through this, I know of 7 very, very small camps on our side of the river that are currently on WashDOT property now. WashDOT has given the city of Vancouver a piece of property to use as a safe stay village, the first in the entire state. So there is a partnership on our side with WashDOT currently.
Yeah, providing excess and remnant land, yeah, no issue. Organizing land swaps and that's that other.
And Emily, on this one, I just want to name that Shavana had mentioned Share as well, that I know does both outreach and transitional housing as well as permanent housing placement. So I think we can also look at the larger notes. I think there was a couple of entities that Shavana shared earlier that we should look at.
Awesome. Yeah, Shannon, I know that I think this one in particular, we were thinking around that outreach piece as part of what we would hope to achieve here.
Can we quickly take number 18? And so once again, DOTs as well as transit agencies, when buying property, if eminent domain, once again, that's a last resort, there is the Uniform Relocation Act that is federal across the country that speaks to language, speaks to culturally appropriate interactions. So this is all encompassed under the Uniform Relocation Act. So it's good that we say it, but it is covered by Uniform Relocation Act. And I will say this with some certainty, and my real estate folks are here to cheer me on, we will stick closely to what that says, because if you don't, you will get sued and you will lose. So the Uniform Relocation Act.
At least for here, it'd be good on that one, just say the real estate process, including eminent domain if necessary.
Yeah.
Blah.
Yeah, there you go, nice.
Also, just note on 20, as we were talking about it, the the DOT has only provided space for this thing, the funding, and so this is I guess a stump for local agencies to consider what resources do they already provide to housing and homeless services, and whether or not there's a way to reserve some of that or create special consideration for folks who might be displaced by this program. The Safe Stay that we are hosting on property does have a priority for folks who have been sheltering from washed out right of way, as well as veterans, because that's the service provider who does that. So I think that's just a plea that we don't want to be in the houseless services provision business, because it is not something that we excel at, nor do we hire for. We would likely further up in Washington, we have had somebody who is a navigator basically for this kind of work, so it has that kind of skill set, but is still relying on the resources.
Thank you. And for folks, as a reminder, we did asset mapping, and we can come back to that as well. And for the Oregon side we added Multnomah County because that's where the homeless service dollars live. So that'll be something that we'll continue to explore on that asset development side. I know we're at time, Emily. I think we can skip maybe any of the next step slides.
Yeah. And I'll just note really quickly that we will bring back number 19 and 21. We had some questions we wanted to dig in with folks, so we'll bring that back into our next session. And with that, I think we can give Administrator Johnson if there's any closeout things you'd like to note before we wrap.
No, these are great conversations, and once again, this is going to be a continuing conversation in a different format as we start getting into the construction processes. So what we do here will be that foundation. So great comments, great stuff.
And just to note, the Joint Commission meeting is in this building on October 1st, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you are interested in seeing all transportation commissioners, come on down.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll
try. But not, yeah.